Hey, we are back again. You believe that? We're back again. This is Third Floor Theatrics from Studio 26. I'm Darren.
I'm Noah, and today is going to be episode 12. We're going to be talking about the best purchases we've ever made and big cities versus small towns. I think we're going to be starting with the big cities versus small towns, though. So I kind of said that backwards there, but yeah, you want to let's go ahead and clarify that I would not consider Vincennes a big city.
Nope.
It's bigger than some of the surrounding towns, but it's
still a town.
Yeah.
It's not anyone that would consider Vincennes a big city is either
only ever been in Knox County and
maybe
never experienced anything outside of Knox
or
County.
high on crack.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vincennes is. It was weird because speaking of Vincennes, there was somebody had this. I don't remember who this person was, but they were talking. It was in the paper or something one time. It was some guy, and he was like talking about how Vincennes was like Los Angeles, and I was like, what is?
No,
I've really
never been to L.A., but I don't see how
Vincennes would fit in a neighborhood in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wouldn't even. But he was talking about how I kind of look at Vincennes like L.A. And I remember this guy it was like an article in the paper, and I'm like, what is this guy on?
That doesn't even make any sense because like L.A. is very diverse.
I don't know where he was coming from. I really don't know where he was coming from.
Lots of different culture.
Yeah, I know.
Like us, like the biggest thing we got is like I said in the previous episode, was the Dynamite food truck.
Thai food truck again.
And then we have like our Mexican food, which is American Mexican food.
Yeah, I don't know where he was coming from. I don't know what.
And Vincennes,
anyway,
it's really not that diverse.
No, not at all.
Like I notice a huge difference in different races and everything whenever I'm in a different city, like especially a bigger city. Like there's way more
cultural diversity.
Yeah, like it's so different than it is here. Like weeks go by without me seeing someone of a different color other than white.
Weeks go by without you seeing a human because you're in your apartment all the time.
No. But it's like when you go to another city, like there's all different races everywhere.
Right. I think there's plus and minuses to both. And I mean, I'm not a big city person.
Me neither. My anxiety goes through the roof. I cannot drive.
Well, it's not fun driving. And that's only because we're not used to it. But people who live there, it's like cake. They don't care.
Well, they do care because the traffic.
Well, but it's still like cake to them. They know what they're doing. They're like, yeah, you go this way, and this is the quickest way. And if you take this tunnel, you go through this way and take that route. Mm-hmm. And for us, it'd be like
just do what Google Maps
go crazy. But no, I've been to several big cities. I've been to Chicago. That's pretty big. I've been to Honolulu. That's big. Mm-hmm. I've been to St. Louis, Louisville, Indy. Yeah. I don't know. Chicago's probably the biggest city I've been in.
Would you consider Evansville a big city?
It's bigger.
But I don't want to just classify big cities as like the major cities of the U.S.
Well, I guess if you go by like the state, so what's the third largest city in the state? But
so I'd consider that a big city.
Yeah, I mean it's
not a major city.
No,
like
it's not
L.A. and San Francisco
or Chicago,
New York City,
right?
Buffalo.
But it's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger. I'm sure people that live there don't think they would go, it's Evansville. To them, it's probably small.
Yeah.
Because I've heard of people talking about that. And they go, I was like, man, are you from Vincennes? Have you been to Vincennes? You want to talk about small? Mm-hmm. Put it this way, like, and I brought up the whole Hawaii thing because everybody knows I'm obsessed with Hawaii. And if it wasn't for the 6 or 8 inch long centipedes, I would find nothing, no flaws there. Uh-huh. But and they'll get you, they'll bite you.
But then you die.
No, you don't die. You get sick.
Amputation.
No, it's not that bad. But when we went to Hawaii, the first thing we did was we flew into Honolulu, and we went there to see Pearl Harbor because I'm a big World War II buff.
World War II.
World War II.
World War II.
But we flew in, and I mean, it's like, oh, there's the island, there's the ocean, it's blue,
Uh-huh.
it's beautiful, and then it's just like massive city. I was like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
And we get in there, and it's crazy traffic, cars. It's just big city. I mean, of course it's it's the ninth largest city in the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's a big city. And there was cool stuff. I mean, we saw some really cool stuff there in Pearl Harbor and some other stuff. But when we went to the smaller towns, when we went to some of the other islands, that was more my speed because it was laid back, low key, traffic wasn't bad, 2-lane highways, people were laid back, the people were friendly. Not that the people weren't friendly in Honolulu, but and there's people who only go to Honolulu or they only go to, like I went to Honolulu, I went to Oahu, that's the island it's on. But I was so much more comfortable and relaxed in the small towns.
Yeah. And
they were just so much more fun.
That's like me on vacation too. Like the recent vacation we went on, we went to Seattle, Spokane, Portland, and then we went to a place called Whitefish, Montana, and it was just it wasn't small. Like I'd say it was smaller than probably Vincennes, but it was like kind of almost like a tourist town.
Right.
Like they had cabins, they had a lot of shops. Like that was more my speed.
Right.
Somewhere that you can drive to somewhere easily. You don't have to pay for parking every single place you're at.
Yeah.
In the bigger cities, I did not enjoy nearly as much. Even though I wasn't even having to drive or anything,
I think
it was still stressful.
The thing about big cities is not only traffic and congestion and cars and people everywhere. You always worry about, for me anyway, it's sort of the safety issue because like, where's the safe part of town? What do I need to avoid?
Yeah.
Don't go in that part of town. There's always some city that's got a part of town you don't want to go in. And so, and when you're not from there and you don't know where you're going, can be a little like, okay, are we safe here?
Yeah, because you hear, at least from our point of view, like living in a smaller town, you hear horror stories of crime and stuff, and like people say, oh yeah, there's neighborhoods that police officers don't even go.
Yeah,
and
you hear that. I don't know if that's true or not, but you hear it.
Well, I don't know. Like, I couldn't imagine that. Like, imagine if there was a place in Vincennes that like crime is just going on, and like the police officers wouldn't even go there.
Right.
Like that'd be terrifying.
It's funny you say that because when I was a kid, we're not far from what was the rough part of town, the North End.
Yeah.
Which is
I've been there.
Well, you're not. You're like 2 miles away from it.
Yeah, but it's nothing like that.
No, the university has bought out most of that part of town. But I
had clients in home health when I did home health, and they were in the North End,
and it wasn't that bad.
And no, it was horrible. Like it
crime ridden.
It sucked. Not crime ridden, but just like
low income,
very dirty. Like it's a house that you walk into
poverty.
And you're like, I don't want to sit down.
A lot of poverty.
Yeah. And a lot of people that have a lot of issues.
Right. But when I was a kid, and then even way before that, right? So the north end of Vincennes was the rough part of town. There was a lot of fights. There was a lot of people, fighting. And this was probably more old school stuff, like fighting. Like, I don't think there was like a lot of shootings or anything like that, but it was just the rough part of town. It was more low income. Yeah. So you had more low income, and you always heard about people getting robbed, and somebody breaking into somebody's house. And I spent a lot of time down there. My mom, before she got remarried when I was 7, was a single mom and had to work. And my older brother was already out running around. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents that lived down there. They lived right across from what was a PE complex at the university. And so there was, I didn't think, I was a kid, I didn't know, but I always heard like, oh, this is bad. My grandparents always their house was always real nice. They took care of it. It was a very small house. But there was always stuff happening there. VU kids would throw, they had, one night somebody ripped a guardrail off the set of stairs and threw it up against the front of my grandparents' house in the middle of the night. And they just like bolted up in bed. It sounded like a car was coming through their house. And people would get their house broke into. They had their house broke into. I'll never forget the summer, probably the last summer my grandma was alive, or maybe a couple summers before she passed away. They would go to Spring Mill State Park every year.
Mm-hmm.
And they would save that money. And it was just for the day. We didn't stay the weekend, but we just go every year. They'd pack a picnic, grandma would fry chicken. It was something we did for years. And somebody walked in the house in broad daylight in the middle of the afternoon and stole the vacation money that they had been saving and my grandpa would have killed the guy if he'd found him. I mean, he's just old school. He would have shot the guy right there in the house. And it just crushed them because they just every year that was what we did, and they would take me, my older brother, and we did it every year until my grandma passed away. And so, but someone just walked right in the house, and they knew where this money was. That's the funny thing. Like I remember somebody saying there was a guy on a bike that had been driving around the block, and they think that guy was like snooping in windows.
Yeah,
because this guy, you had to walk in the kitchen, which is a side door. And you had to go up to the kitchen, up to the back bedroom, and there's a closet with a box of the money in it. He knew exactly, like, he didn't ransack the house. He just went, boop, boop, got the money, walked out and gone. So he had to have been spying in the windows.
Or it was somebody that they knew.
I mean, it could have been, but they think it was just somebody that was in the neighborhood doing up to no good.
Did their research.
And and so, but that was the rough part of town. And like you say, now it's not as rough because the universities bought it and have so many stuff at the college, and that whole block is gone where my grandparents lived. The block's gone now. It's not even there.
Like, that must be such a weird feeling. Like, I couldn't imagine
someone being in your house.
Me being your age and driving by here and just where I live, and where my grandparents live, just being gone and turned into something else.
Yeah.
Like,
you give it 20, 30 years, it probably will be.
I can honestly kind of see that because of how close we are to VU.
Yeah, they're spreading out. But anyway, every town, big or small, probably has a rough part and a nice part, and it's kind of the uppity part where the doctors live and the lawyers live.
There's some really nice parts to Vincennes.
Yeah.
Like,
there's some are outside of town.
Yeah, it's not like in the city. No, but like
the city,
the town.
The city sleeps.
But there's like some really nice houses.
Right. So I think, and me and my brother have always talked. My brother's, my younger brother is really a big Evansville nut. And me and him go to Evansville like once a month and run around and stuff. But he's always talked. Well, it's kind of a brother bonding session. But we've talked about, he's always talked about wanting to live down there, but he's always said I wouldn't live in town. I would live on the outskirts.
Yeah.
And, because you're 10 minutes from, or 5 minutes from.
See, that's how I kind of feel about my location in Vincennes. Like, right now, it kind of feels like we're out of Vincennes, but literally we could get in the car in 2 minutes. We're on the main street.
Yeah. That's because Vincennes is the size of a flea.
No.
It's not very big, man.
More of like
an ant.
Yeah.
But sure. Vincennes is not a big town.
No, but it's the biggest around here in the county.
Well, that may be. It's not, Knox County's not it's not known for its big cities. And yeah, it's definitely the oldest city in the state. No, I think just overall though, like big cities, small cities, everybody's, and there's like almost two split sides. There's some people who just love big cities.
And then you hate them.
And then there's some people who just love tiny little towns and they get to know everybody and everything's familiar. And there's pluses and minuses.
I feel like Vincennes is in a good middle ground though.
The size is not bad. I wouldn't want to live here again, and that I have personal reasons for that. But the size is not bad. And it's, but you hear about like Vincennes having crime waves where there's people burning buildings down, and remember all that? There's a couple years ago there was a bunch of fires that happened, and it was like abandoned buildings that people were like setting on fire.
I think I do remember that actually.
Yeah, it was like and like, oh, there's people breaking in cars. There's people breaking in cars. It's like, so you really,
but that's out of the normal.
It probably is not quite the norm here, but it's like you really can't get 100% away from that no matter where you go.
No, there will always be crime.
They'll find you no matter where you're at. They'll find you. If I had a choice, if I was like had to move somewhere, like let's say my wife's job changed or we just
talked about that the other day.
Yeah, I would not want to live like in town. I would want to live out and like have, a 10-minute drive would be perfect.
Yeah.
Because like right now my drive here is about 35, 40 minutes and that's not optimal. Although it's optimal when I don't have to, when I'm off, because I can just sort of disappear and be away from this town.
And you have another town that's closer to you than Vincent's anyway.
Right. And I can go there and nobody really knows me. And the people who do know me up there, I don't mind to run into. So would you ever live in a big city? Like, would you ever?
There's one circumstance.
This I think I remember this story.
I think we've talked about
locked in your apartment.
I would have to be very, very rich.
Yeah.
Making a substantial amount of money that I could afford a nice house and
servants?
I could have things delivered to me. I wouldn't need servants.
So you just live there by yourself.
I would need a delivery boy. I would need.
So you'd be the old guy. This be like the old guy that just lives up on the hill by himself
and just has everything delivered.
No one, he never leaves the house.
If I do go somewhere, I would not drive. I would like Uber or something. I would not drive in a big city
at all.
If I absolutely had to, I could. But I've driven in big cities before, and I did okay. Like I didn't almost die or anything, but it gives me so much anxiety.
Right, heart attack.
And like I'll even get anxiety sometimes in Vincent's, like when I don't know where something's at and I'm having to follow my directions.
And yet you lived here your entire life.
I've not lived in Vincent's my entire life.
You lived out in the country, right? Or you lived?
I started off in Bruceville, then we moved to Oaktown. Then my parents got divorced, and I switched between Oaktown and Bruceville.
For people who don't know Oaktown and Bruceville, Bruceville's about 10 minutes out.
Oaktown's about 15.
And there's nothing there, neither one. Like a gas station and post office, and that's it.
Oaktown, it had a few things open up over time, but they all
shut
closed
down.
Except the liquor store. The liquor
you gotta
store
have your
open.
booze, man.
It's the only successful
you gotta
business
have your
in
booze.
Oaktown.
When life's hard, you want to drown your sorrows in little corn squeezins and lay in the grass. But that's not. Children, if you're listening, don't follow that advice.
But yeah, I just realistically, I could not see myself living in a big city. I like the size of Vincennes, and I like the location I'm at.
Right.
I don't know if I'd want to live in Vincennes, like where you see all these houses like right next to each other.
Oh, you got no yard, you got no space. Yeah.
And it's not like it really matters. I wouldn't do anything out in the yard anyway. But like just having people,
you might be out there doing backflips.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. Just go out in the backyard and do
backflips
and then come right back inside.
Well, that's a sight to see. No, I think but I think there's like the big cities, certain big cities. People have like this romantic vision of them, like New York. Like you watch like some of the shows I watch. Like okay, so Seinfeld takes place in New York, and King of Queens takes place in Queens, New York, which is one of the boroughs of New York. And there's always sort of this, like vibe about it, like especially Seinfeld, because they're walking around, they're going to this little coffee shop, and they go to this. They're always hanging out in this little restaurant. It's always so they're always talking about New York, and you hear people talking about that, like going to the East Side or going to Brooklyn or going to
the Bronx,
Manhattan or whatever. And there's all these, and it's like it's so old. New York is such an old city, and there's all these restaurants, and I think there's a romantic. Like people romanticize that town, that city, because it is so old.
It's like, oh, Ma, I'm going to the big city. Like I'm gonna make it.
Yeah,
like that's what I think. Like people from like our size towns and stuff. Like you don't hear them like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go live in New York, or L.A.
But
if they do, it's like they're going to chase their dream.
Well, there was 200 and some kids in my high school class, and most of them I haven't seen in the last 30 years. Like, I don't know where they went. So I would say most of them left the state. Most of them went to a bigger city.
World. Aliens.
Well, it could have been alien abduction. We don't know. But no, I don't know. I think big cities are okay. I think little towns are okay. It's whatever you like. It's a song waiting to happen.
I think if you can put up with the stuff that comes along with being in a big city, there are definitely perks.
See, but here's the flip side, okay? Here's the flip side. So me and you, and probably a lot of other people who've grown up in these small little towns where it's comfortable, it's easy to drive, it takes you 5 minutes to cross town. We go to big cities and we freak out.
Yeah.
But see, the flip side of that is you got people who grow up in these big cities that come here and they're just like, nothing here.
It's like, what do you mean? We got 3 McDonald's.
Yeah. But they come here and they go, hey, you guys don't have no, we don't have that. Hey, you guys don't have a Home Depot? No, we don't have that. You got to go an hour away. Well, you guys don't have a good Italian restaurant? No, not really. No. Do you guys have
we have a Bob's.
We have a Bob's. But, or they say, you guys don't have a whatever. It's like, no, you got to drive an hour to Evansville. You got to drive 2 hours to Indy. You got to drive,
Mm-hmm.
And those people,
they're like, 2 hours? That ain't nothing. That's what I drive every day to go to work.
True, but at the same time, they're so used to having everything they want in that location. Stores, clubs, arenas. Oh, they want to see a comedian. So-and-so's coming to town to do a stand-up act.
Yeah.
Here, there's none of that. So you have to go to a different town. Yeah. Whereas there, it's just like, oh, hey, look who's coming to town. And I think those people, it's almost the reverse. It's almost like the opposite of what we deal with stress. They're not so much stressed. They're just frustrated because there's nothing to do.
Yeah. And even for us that have lived here,
there's still nothing to do.
There's just not a lot to do. You got to make do with what you got.
Which ain't a lot.
Yeah. But you got to think too, like how you were saying, oh yeah, you got to drive 2 hours to Indy. You got to drive an hour to Evansville. Like there are people that drive that much in New York just because.
You don't drive in New York.
Some people do.
Not very many.
Have you seen the roads?
Yeah,
they're always filled with cars.
But those people live in Connecticut and drive in.
Well,
the people who live in here's
but, okay. Even if they're not driving, they have to travel.
Right.
They have to try even if it's not very far.
See,
like 6 miles in Vincennes is nothing compared to 6 miles. in New York.
It'd take you seconds in Vincennes. It would take you 2 hours in New York. But that's the thing. It's like New York. Most of those cars are out of towners. The people who live in New York use buses or they walk or they use subway. Now, LA, you do drive. LA's those people because they don't have the public transportation. But New York, if you live in say you live in Manhattan, everything you need's right there.
Yeah.
You can just walk to the office and walk to the grocery store, walk to the drugstore. And that's what I'm saying. People have that, and there's the guy selling hot dogs on the sidewalk and there's bagel places and bakeries. And there's to me
that part would be very nice
having all that cool like when we get back to food again
food would be my main thing.
And I've talked to like Brent at work about that. It's like it feels like New York has this old school old world appeal because there's like Chinatown and there's all these neighborhoods and it just seems like it's I don't want to say it's more classy. I don't even know the word for it, but it's like you think of LA just seems like a crazy free for all.
Yeah, like I would say LA is more of like a liberal playground. Like there's just so much new up and coming. Like they're so like I don't know the word for it. Like not advanced, but like progressive.
I'd say they're both pretty liberal cities, but
New York probably less than. But I mean like trend wise.
Fact check on that.
Trend wise.
Yeah.
Like LA is like the new like up and coming. Like it's like there's just a lot of new stuff going on in LA.
Right.
And New York is just more like the classic,
Yeah, New York to me seems more old school, more traditional. You got all those because it's such an old city.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old city. It's way older than LA.
Yeah.
And you got all those old restaurants and old landmarks that have been there. Statue of Liberty's there. Brooklyn Bridge is there. All that stuff is there. Ellis Island, just all the history. Mm-hmm. And then, whereas LA is just like crazy town. And I think that's because it's the entertainment capital.
It's all the new up and coming
movie stuff and TV stuff. And like
artists
when I see
and the creators,
when I see, not that there's not a lot of stuff that comes out of New York and Broadway's in New York. A lot of stage stuff. But when I see New York in a movie or TV show, even though I don't like big cities and even though I wouldn't want to live there, I mean, I might want to visit. That'd be cool. See it at least once. But when I see New York in a movie or something, it's something that feels like there's some feeling about it for me that I can't even explain that. It just feels like, oh, that's cool. That's old school. People walking the streets and hanging out, and you got all the, and then LA is just And like the weather in LA would be more my style because it's
Yeah.
warm. But you see LA and it's just like craziness, just nuts, just traffic, freeways. Whereas New York, people are walking to the deli and they're walking to the theater to see a show, and I don't know what it is about that.
I think New York is just more like it's a staple. Like whenever people say like, "Oh, big city in the U.S.," people think New York, and L.A. It's coming along. Like you said, it hasn't been around as long as New York, but like they're doing a lot of stuff in L.A. Like I would say, New York and L.A. are the two most talked about.
Oh yeah, the U.S. those are definitely the two big because they're both ones on opposite coast.
Yeah,
I would hate the weather in New York, although it would probably be. It's more like here.
Yeah.
I mean, you got your 4 seasons, and you got snow, and you got spring, and we're not that far from New York.
How long a drive is it to New York?
You can be in New York in 10 hours.
You want to go?
Put it this way: you can be in New York in 10 hours. You can be in LA in a week.
Well,
if you're driving
in a week, that's kind of long.
No,
we got from here to like. You mean like taking breaks?
Well, yeah, I don't mean just like
drive straight through.
No, I mean, but you're talking 10 hours or 3,000 miles. There's a big difference. Look on the map. Like here's Indiana, here's New York. It's close. LA is like way out here.
Yeah.
He's gonna look this up since we're like. You got a phone there. Look on your damn phone.
You be nice to me.
Have to be nice to the youngster. He might crumble. This younger generation is so fragile. So what are you looking at? Mileage?
Okay. What do you think an appropriate time to travel on the road is? Like a day?
Know.
Like would you do 8-hour days? 10-hour days?
I don't know. Just look something up.
I already got it.
Okay, just tell me what you got.
29 hours.
It's a 29-hour drive to LA.
So,
but is that
3 days?
And you can be in
LA.
You can be in New York in 10 hours.
Is it 10 hours?
Something like that.
$13 hours.
Okay, but still. Now, a lot of that varies on driving speed and traffic and weather and everything else. But my point is, New York is a lot more like the Midwest than sunny California. It's a lot different. I don't know. Once again, somehow we got off topic.
I don't know. I just feel like New York is more like it's more nostalgic. Like it's more like they're set. Not
classy might be a word. I don't know if that's a word that fits.
But I think classic would be a better
and classy
word.
In a lot of ways too, because you got theater, and you got Broadway.
They're already fully established.
Well, so is L.A.
Well,
but it's a different thing, man. It's a different. What I mean by
completely different vibes.
Yeah, like when you think of New York, I think of like limos and Times Square and Broadway and people in tuxes and classy old school like Italian restaurants that have been there for forever.
Classic.
And LA just seems like people running around and driving and being nuts.
It's a new up and coming.
But it just seems like it's. Forget about the up and coming. You keep saying that
because it's true.
It's everything's up and coming, but it's just LA is not. It's a different vibe. Like to me, New York is, like I said, it's the show. It's the Times Square money, suits and ties. Like what do you call it? What is it? Suit and tie? What do you call that? Like it's not a suit and tie. What is it? Tuxedos. And LA, it's just like people just like driving around with their tops down, and it's 80 degrees all the time, and it's just a different. It's different.
Well, yeah, it is different.
My vote is for New York. So if you're out listening to anybody in New York, you got my vote.
I'm not going to vote for either.
Well, I'm not either. We're not.
I wouldn't be able to make it in either city.
No, I wouldn't either. But I would. If someone said, "You got a trip to either one, where do you want to go?" I'd go to New York. For one, it's closer.
Yeah,
wouldn't take you as long to get there, and there's plenty of like if say, well, there's film guys. You want to go to L.A. There's plenty of film guys on the East Coast. Plenty of them. So,
yeah, I don't.
Put it this way. I always think it's cooler when you find out where actors live. I always think it's cooler the ones that live in New York than the ones that live in LA. Because like everybody can live in LA. Everybody lives in LA. But if people live in New York, where you got some tradition, I think it's just for some reason cooler to me.
It's more like grungy.
Well,
not in a bad way though. Like grungy, like old school.
Seems like you got to be tougher to live in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, in LA, you just, hey man, what's going on? Let's go surfing. It's like, come on, I don't give a shit about that. But anyway,
God,
we've become this whole episode it dwindled down into a fight over New York and LA.
Yeah.
So forget the rest of the country, damn it.
It's not big cities versus small town. It's big city versus big city.
It's LA versus New York in a battle royale.
Who has the bigger population? New York, or LA? I don't know. Anyway,
they're both like 5 or 6 million each.
Which is the total population of Indiana.
Is it?
Yeah, Indiana's population last time I checked, I think was like 6 million.
There you go.
So could you imagine?
No.
Every person in Indiana living in a city?
No. I would go to both cities if I had a chance, but if it was only for a reason.
I'd want to do it right.
Like I would go see New York to visit. LA I would go to if it was a business opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas New York I would just go to visit and just see the sights, you know.
There's a lot of cool things in LA that I think you could definitely plan a ton of vacations around.
Oh yeah.
But if I ever went to like a major city like that, I would want to have it so planned out that I knew what I was doing.
To me, it seems like, and here we go with New York again. To me, it seems like New York has the more landmarks.
Yeah, because they've been around longer.
And they've got, I mean, I had a chance to go see Statue of Liberty a couple years ago. I was in Virginia. I was on the East Coast, and we could have went up there. And I was like, my wife's like, you want to go to New York and you want to see the Statue of Liberty? And I go, not today. Because instead we went to the beach. We went to Virginia Beach. But it wasn't because I just wasn't mentally prepared.
Yeah.
Like if it would have been a vacation we had planned for months and I would have been thinking about it, getting psyched up about it, then it's like, oh yeah, we're going to New York. We're going to New York.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't ready. It was like, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah. I agree. It's definitely a lot when you have
it's a lot to take in from a boy from the farm.
Yeah, when you've lived like this your entire life and you go and it different in every single way.
You can't be you can't see. Here's the problem though. So no matter where you're going, you can't come off as the tourist because they'll eat you alive. You got to come off as just like you know what you're doing. If you're bumbling around and where stuff's at,
and then you get mugged.
You could get mugged, or people just they could take advantage of it because this guy's from Podunk, this guy's from Kansas.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of I've seriously heard that about safety. Like when you go somewhere, walk with a purpose and act like you know what you're doing, because if you walk around bumbling, people are going to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
Safety 101, kids.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm happy with where I live now. I definitely think there are a lot of times where I think, man, it'd be nice if we had this.
Yeah. They're building a subway under Vincennes. You know that?
Yeah, right. That'll be the day.
We don't need a subway here. We just need a good. We need somebody to pave the streets. Whoa!
Yeah, we need better streets and we need different restaurants.
Right. The streets in Vincennes are horrible.
Yeah, they are. They are absolutely horrible.
They're like
taxpayer money going to work.
Horse and buggy, cobblestone. It's like crap. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, so I think I'm ready to go ahead and switch over to the next topic,
which is kneading of dough. The proper way to knead dough. Is that what episode 2 is?
No, I think that's next one.
Oh, that's next week. What is?
It's the best purchases we've ever made.
Oh yeah, money spend the money, spend that cash.
And what we're referring to is just things that we've bought over our lifetime that have made the biggest impact, either emotionally, like sentimental value, or it just utility wise, like if it's something that you use all
utilitarian, as they say.
Sure,
that's a term. That's the real term.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I don't know. So I'll start with one of the things that I bought, and this was after I lived on my own and in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And after I really started getting into cooking was the kitchen in my apartment is just basically this sink, and then you have the fridge and the stove, and then you have 2 small pieces of countertop on each side of the sink.
Mm-hmm.
And one side I have the dry dishes, or the wet dishes that then become dry.
Right.
And then on the other side I have like my air fryer, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I really didn't have a lot of room to like do things. So I bought these 2 kitchen islands that I put together, and it has changed everything. Like
Your life is now complete.
it made a world of difference. Like, especially someone who loves cooking, like having more room in the kitchen to do things.
Right.
Especially when beforehand I had like no room. So yeah, if like that's my thing. If you don't have a lot of room to cook and everything, buy you like a little kitchen island somewhere that you can,
or buy a bigger kitchen.
Yeah, somewhere that you can cut your vegetables at. You can do all sorts of things.
I think the best purchase I ever bought was a double bowl toilet.
What?
a double bowled toilet.
What the heck is that?
It's like it's got 2 bowls, so 2 people can sit side by side.
Oh, shut up! Is that what
you almost for a second bought that? That was a real thing.
I don't know anything about that stuff, so I didn't know.
Well, a toilet bowl is the round part. So if I said a double bowled toilet, it would be. So you.
Well, in my head, I was thinking like, is it something to do like you can flush it simultaneously, like you can flush
No, it has
without
2
it having
bowls
to
on 2
fill up?
seats.
Yeah.
Why
didn't you invent that and see how well it catches
about half
on?
a second you bought that. Don't act like
it
you
was
didn't.
longer than half a second.
Okay, well you believed it for a few seconds.
Well,
Anyway,
only because I know nothing about that kind of stuff.
Oh my! Slap happy here in the studio, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, like what do you think one of your best purchases, something that stands out off the top of your head?
Recent or
just
any time?
Overall? Like it could have been something you bought when you were younger, like with your
I think
money
it varies. I think, well, I mean, like the first thing I really saved up for was a drum set, and I was in high school, and that was pretty cool because my mom's like, I'm not buying you a drum set. If you want a drum set, you have to get your own money. You have to save up. And so I got it. That was that job at that restaurant I was talking about in a past episode. That was one of the coolest things just because it was one of the first things I really bought that I worked for and had a job.
And it's led to a lot of things. Like you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, ever since then, I'm
sure
you've had
chart
drums.
Success and video success.
Record albums.
Yeah, great albums that have sold millions. And but that was one of the coolest things because it's got me into, and then of course I quit playing drums for years after that and then started back about, 14 years ago. But, and I guess mine is a little bit different. Like, I have 2 drum sets now. My current drum set is one that is a brand, Ludwig, that I wanted that brand. It's kind of like you have lesser brands and you always want a certain type of something.
Like the end all be all.
Well,
like the gold standard.
I wouldn't say that. It's not like top of the line Ludwig, but it's a nice Ludwig set. And it's that brand has been around for like ever. They were originally out of Chicago, and everybody used Ludwig, from the Beatles to Zeppelin to Cheap Trick to, people I like. And so I always wanted Ludwig. So about 12 years ago or 10 years ago, I finally got Ludwigs. I had wanted them. I had Pearls, and Pearls is a good brand. And I finally talked to Brett Alvis at Alvis Music. I said, he said, we're going to start selling Ludwigs again. Because I kept joking with him. I said, you got to get Ludwigs in. You got to get Ludwigs in. He finally did. And I got a set. So that was pretty cool because I always wanted those. I always wanted that brand. And it's kind of like when somebody buys whatever and they sort of say, well, one day I want this. Or, man, I wish I wanted to trade up or sell up and then finally get what they want.
Yeah.
I don't know. Collectibles, is one of my big hobbies is collecting. So there's a lot of collectibles that I've bought that I've sold and made money, and then bought other collectibles, which you just turned it over within the hobby.
Yeah.
Like House stuff, I don't know. I mean,
See, I have a lot of house stuff that I
like,
truly value.
yeah, I think our purchases are totally different. I mean, you have a lot of stuff you buy for fun too, but like your stuff is like for your cooking stuff because you're so much into cooking.
Yeah.
Whereas mine would be drums because I play music, or collectibles because that's one of my biggest hobbies is collecting. So I think
that'd be more like almost like on the sentimental value stuff that like
for you.
No, like for you, because it's not stuff necessarily that like utilitarian that you use, but it's stuff that holds purpose.
Right, and then you could sell it all one day and make some money. You could sell the whole collection and make a little bit of money. I don't know. The car I have I've had since '07. And that was probably the best car I ever bought. And I still have it.
Yeah.
It's my little Nissan Goji that I named Goji after Godzilla, of course. And it is a Nissan. It's a Japanese car, of course. And, that I've had that car forever. The best car I've ever owned. And it has a lot of things wrong with it, but I still have it. It still gets me where I need to go. And that was a good purchase. I think sentimental-wise, probably stuff I've bought for my wife. Like, I bought her stuff like knickknacks that she holds on to, or, some jewelry stuff that she holds on to, or stuff that's just, sentimental. It's not maybe I don't go out and buy expensive jewelry, but I'll get jewelry from Hawaii.
Did you go to Jared?
No, I didn't go to Jared. But I've never been in that jewelry store. But, it's like the Hawaiian thing, okay? So, for instance, like, since we went to Hawaii, and that was such a big deal for us, and especially I became obsessed with it afterwards.
Yeah, she's probably thinking, like, oh, God, I should have never... I'm sure there's times she thinks that, but, like, I've bought her jewelry from there. I've ordered jewelry from there. I've bracelet and earrings and a pendant and stuff. And so it sort of goes hand in hand with us on our vacation and the memories of that. And then it's sort of like you can kind of reflect back on it. And when you get something like that, or I give her something like that, then it's like, oh, we think back to that trip and how cool that trip was, how much that trip was, how important it was. Yeah.
So I guess that's sentimental too, but there's a purpose there. So.
See, one of my things, and you're going to laugh and scoff at this.
Just toilet related again?
No. The thing that plays the biggest part in my home is turning my home into a smart home.
Oh, I knew that.
Like, at first, when I first decided hey, I'm going to do it, it was mainly because I just love technology. And I was like, this is really cool. And after I got more into it and stuff, if it ever stops working, or if I'm at someone else's house and I don't have my smart home stuff that does so many things, I'm like, if I have to go flip it, if I'm sitting down and I forget to turn a light off and I have to go flip it, I'm like, this sucks. This is horrible.
Yeah. See, I don't care about that because I feel like
that's the thing though. I didn't care that much about it either. I thought I'll have it. It'll be more of a novelty than it will be something I use.
I think
but it's such a major part of my day to day now. It's just ingrained.
The danger here is that, at some point you'll lose the use of your legs because you're so lazy you can't get up and flip a switch.
See, I can get up and do all sorts of stuff.
I'll be doing backflips at 85.
I still get up and do a bunch of stuff. But the fact that if I'm cooking, I can say hey, turn the lights on.
But I see you
in the kitchen, or
you say it.
Well, yeah,
you don't do it yourself.
I can if I want to,
but you don't.
Sometimes,
barely.
Or if my big thing is if I'm sitting down and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to. I want to watch a movie. I'll say a movie and it'll pop up on my TV. And I'll get all the lights in my house turned off, except for certain ones that just add to the ambiance. God. Or I can say, "Oh, good morning" to myself in the morning, and my smart home will tell me what's on my calendar for today. What's the weather like?
You know what I can say? I can say good morning to my wife, and she says good morning. You talk
and then she gets on her phone. It's like, okay, Darren, it's 46 degrees out right now. This and that is on your calendar.
Yeah, But I'm talking to a person, not talking to a house.
Well,
take that to the bank, boy.
I can't help it that I live alone. Okay, it's not my fault.
What he's failing to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is his self-imposed exile. Whatever. He chooses to live this way.
But no, it's something that makes things so convenient and so easy. And like, it would be even more convenient if I had a family. Like you see dads and stuff all the time. Like, oh, you changed the air conditioning, or you left the bathroom light on. Like, instead of having to get up and turn the light off and get angry with your kids, you could just
house. My daughter just crapped her pants. House, change diaper. Nothing happens. Nice. Nothing happens.
What if it did?
So, here's the thing. I think, and that could be difference of generation or whatever.
I didn't bash what you said that you liked.
Okay, but this is part of my shtick, so I have to. It doesn't mean I really think this way or shtick. You got to go with it. Go with the act. No, I think what it is some of this is like generational, and just sort of like, I don't care about any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I would rather.
Well, you don't even have a smartphone.
No,
You're
I don't.
On the opposite end of the spectrum,
right? And that's by choice. Like you have a choice that you like high tech stuff. I don't. Mm-hmm. Like, I would rather focus like on the arts, and I'd rather focus on like painting and creating and sculpting and doing music, and so my brain, and that's because that's how my brain works. Yeah. But it's like, if I was younger, would I? And see, I don't know. Like, if I was younger, would I be like into technology, or because I'm an artist, would I still not be into technology? Because, and I don't know. I think there's a lot of sort of, you get into sort of those artsy people that are sort of hippies. Mm-hmm. They're like hippies, and they're all like, all they want to do is make art. I'm not in sort of that direction of the arts, because mine comes from a place of like sci-fi and comic books. And, but yeah, I think some of it's generational. Like, your purchases are like the high tech stuff. Mm-hmm. And your purchase, and that's sort of, I think, maybe younger generation, the smartphones, everything's smart, everything's high tech. And Brant's that way too. Brant's considerably older than you, but he's still into all that. Mm-hmm. Brent's in his 30s, and he's still into that. But and you do see people, though. You see old people with smartphones. They're like,
most old people, I'd say, do have smartphones now,
right?
Because their kids convince them to get one.
Kids were brainwashed by their children.
But no, just a couple other noteworthy things that don't require nearly as much topic of conversation as the smart home is another thing that goes along with cooking is like a nice chef's knife.
I knew that was...
Instead of getting like a cheapo set from Walmart that's you're never going to sharpen or it's never going to last, buy you a nice kitchen knife and a nice sharpening kit. And like, other than a chef's knife, like the 8-inch chef's knife, which a lot of people don't use, I don't really use other knives.
You don't have a meat cleaver?
No. I have like a paring knife, but most of the time I don't use it.
Right.
Because you can do 99% of the work in the kitchen with a chef's knife.
Right. Is that what the serial killers all use in the movies?
The
chef's knives?
Yes.
Michael Myers.
That's the one.
No, I think we come from a different spectrum of purchases. Like I said, my stuff is somewhat. Your stuff is a lot more utilitarian, like with your cooking utensils and your tools, and then the house stuff is just by choice. But that's the stuff you use it.
It's most of my stuff is utilitarian.
Mine is mostly
sentimental,
collecting dust on a shelf.
But it means stuff to you.
It means stuff to me because I've done it my entire life, and it brings back memories sometimes of when I was a kid, and it's just I'm a collector, so a lot of my purchases are in that. But then there's times I like buying like some new brand of toothpaste. Yeah, I was like, I can't wait to try that toothpaste. I bet that's gonna be great. Mm-hmm. So just weird stuff like that. Like I can't wait to try that new drink, or I can't wait to try that new. So sometimes purchases are just, a lot of times they're just for fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get real like serious and be like, oh, the best thing I ever purchased was insurance. I mean, you know what I mean? You could, the best thing I ever purchased was that life insurance policy. That way, when they bump me off, they'll be loaded. But I, I
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then I've got like with my computer, like I built my computer, but a lot of people are fine with just an average computer.
Right.
But the thing that I want to say is if you're on your computer a lot, whether it be work or leisure or whatever, invest in a nice mouse and keyboard, because that's the thing you interact with the computer the most.
Right.
Like you don't really interact with the computer itself other than to turn it on and turn it off. But the keyboard and mouse, that's stuff you're using all the time.
Right.
So if you get a good quality, like it makes a world of difference. And then like my car, like I was never a huge car guy until I started looking into getting the car that I have now, which is
78 Pinto.
No, it's a 2010 Camaro SS, and like I love that car. Like you always give me crap about it because you're like, oh, you can't drive it. There's snow on the ground.
Well, that's sort of true.
It is true, but you know, it's something that I really enjoy is like, say somebody pulls up, I can race them if I want to.
How often does that happen?
More than you think.
Yeah, but see, that's
more than you think, and that's just not something that you're into.
No, I was in a car one time. A friend of mine always had sports cars, right? And we were here in town cruising. He had a Monte Carlo Super Sport. And somebody pulled up in a Mustang or something. Some girl.
It's a Mustang. They probably lost.
Well, I don't. It's a Mustang. Maybe it's a Camaro. This is late '80s, early '90s. So we're driving around, and we kept pulling up. We were cruising town. Somebody kept eyeing him, and he's like, "What's that guy looking at?" And I was like, "I don't know." We was on a one-way street, so he pulled up beside us, and they decided they were going to race. So we drive over in Illinois, cross the bridge over to 33 or whatever highway that is.
I don't know.
And it's kind of secluded out there. And this girl gets out of this guy's car, and I get out of Doug's car, and she's like, "Oh, he does this all the time. Every time he sees a sports car, he wants to." And Doug got blown out of the water.
Yeah.
Whatever this guy was driving, Doug got blown out of the water.
He probably had stuff done too. He built it.
The Mustang?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's a Mustang. It may not have been, but I'm almost sure it was. That was a long time ago. But, you know, we watched him take off, and Doug got just blown out of the water. Yeah. But that's just, you know, and that's just something that doesn't appeal to me.
See, I enjoy it.
You know what I mean? It's like
if there's another car on the road,
and you want a drag race,
and I'll pull up next to it, or it's driving down the highway, I'll pull up right beside it, and I'll see if they do anything. Most of the time, they don't. There's a lot of people around here that don't do anything. Like they'll be driving a Mustang or a Challenger, a Charger, and you pull up next to them, ready to go, and they don't do anything. They don't do anything. It's like, why are you driving?
Do you think
car
someday
then?
You'll grow out of that though? You'll just be like, okay, I just had done with that phase, and probably.
Maybe like one day if I get a family and
when
stuff,
I'm your age, I might.
But you know, it would be nice just to have a car like that, because those cars, they are fun to just drive around in and cruise the town and go out and destroy people on the roads.
Jeez.
But yeah, one thing that's kind of funny is around here, I'm sure you've noticed, like, I think we've even talked about it before, like all the people with the big diesel trucks and all that kind of stuff. I love when those people try and race me because they think their truck is real fast, and it always gets beat.
Does it?
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, because it's like a lot of people around here have that mentality, like, oh, it's my truck, it's blows smoke, and oh, it's so quick and everything. And like, yeah, it's quick for a truck, but it's not going to beat a sports car.
Right.
9 times out of 10, it's not. So yeah.
How'd we get off topic again?
What were we talking about? My car. Like, I'm glad that I bought my car. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something else that like is sticking out to me. I said the thing about the kitchen knives.
Right.
Anything kitchen related.
Kitchen related.
One thing I would like to get in the future, if I don't get it at the apartment, I'm gonna make sure I get it if I ever buy a house or move or anything.
When the lottery hits.
I'd really like a gas stove.
Really?
Instead of an electric stove. Because you always see, like, in professional kitchen, professional cooks and stuff, they're always cooking on gas stoves.
I hate having live gas in the house, though. There's something about that to me, having gas in the house. It's sort of like, it's a gas leak. House blows up.
You see that a lot, and I understand that.
Because it happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
Be like, hey, what's that smell? It smells like gas. And somebody lights up a cigar and the house blows up.
Yeah.
And that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened a couple of times here in town.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. But no, I think, like I said, I think my purchases are more sentimental, collecting, having fun, just hobby. And that's not to say that I haven't bought stuff that for the house or, that I wanted that I use, or like, hey, I need a new razor or what, you know what I mean? It's like, I buy stuff that I need. Yeah. I buy stuff that I use. I guess I don't think too much about that stuff though. Mm-hmm. For me, it's like, if I need it, I buy it and use it. Yeah. The stuff I think about and really is the stuff I just have a passion for as a collector, or, and a lot of that stuff, a lot of people go, God, you got a lot of junk, and to them it probably is junk, but to me it's like, man, that's what I do. And it all goes hand in hand though with me, because it's like comics, sci-fi, horror, art, music, it's all that creative stuff. So the stuff I buy a lot of times is the stuff I'm into in life, and the stuff I pursue. So,
and the stuff I buy, it's more, can I use this? Would this make such and such easier?
Yeah. Well, your cooking stuff though is your sort of a hobby that I would say that goes with.
Yeah, like I have enough cooking stuff to start up in a restaurant.
Right.
But yeah, like that's just something that developed over the years. That the more I get into it, the more things that I realize, like, oh, that would be really nice to have.
Right.
Like lately, I said to you earlier, I was starting to make smash burgers a lot more often. So I bought a burger press, because beforehand I was just using a sauce pot. I was using a sauce pot and using the bottom of it with some parchment paper and just smashing it down.
Right. Sauce pot.
And that worked, but having
a
burger
good name
press,
for a band, wouldn't it?
Sauce pot.
Sauce pot. One word. Band name.
But
we're going to get that copywritten, so don't take it.
Yeah. But I can't really think of anything noteworthy else that
But I think we probably both bought stuff that, like, you go, or you return it.
Yeah.
You go, I bought that, and you go, well, that's a mistake. I shouldn't have bought that. Or sometimes you buy stuff and you go, and this is a collector even. Like, you'll buy stuff and you'll get it and you're excited and you wait on it for months and it shows up and you go, it's okay. And then before you know it, you're trying to sell it or trade it. Or so there's bad purchases too. I mean, that's,
And that's along with anything. Like, people will always make bad purchases in their life.
Yeah.
Whether it be big or small.
So since you're into this, the high-tech stuff and the high-tech house, would you buy like one of these high-tech love dolls? Like these love robots?
If I'm at a certain point in my life where it's just not looking good, and it's like, Noah, you're not going to have any companionship.
You're going to buy a robot woman.
If it comes to that. Yep.
It's going to be some money spent there.
Me, along with millions of other people, will probably buy one.
Robot house, robot girlfriend, robot
cat.
Those things, your legs don't work anymore, so now you're a cyborg in some kind of robotic wheelchair. It's just it's become a horrible sci-fi film at this point.
My robot girlfriend though will never leave me. So
unless they become self-aware, and then they could.
Well, yeah, then them leaving me is the least of
then they might kill you when you're not looking.
That's the least of the worries. So yeah, you got any last minute things you want to add on before we?
No, I think it's been entertaining. I think that's, like we've said before, we're trying to just have fun with these podcasts and be silly, and we've had some more serious subjects and some that are a little bit darker. Sometimes they'll come up on the list, and I go, I don't know if I want to do that one because that doesn't sound like fun. But I think it's been fun, and I think I just hope I hope people are enjoying and sort of being entertained by these.
Yeah, I do too. One thing that I think would be interesting is, if you're listening to this, leave a comment down below on like what your best purchase is, like something that's made the biggest impact on your life.
Right.
Because it might be something that somebody's never thought of and be like, like I could really use that. That'd be really handy.
Right. Or let us know what you think about the big city, little town debate.
Yeah. Are you on Team New York or Team LA?
Team New York's going to win. I hate to tell you.
Yeah, probably.
And you're not even on Team LA, so
No, I'm
you're neutral.
I'm neutral.
He's neutral.
Team Vincennes.
Oh, jeez.
No,
I would admit that.
No.
Okay.
I'm Team Noah's apartment.
There you go. And it's secret location too, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, like I always say, thanks for tuning in, staying this long if you did. Make sure you like it if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see every episode come out on Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll
see you guys down the road.